sit. Good evening. This is the Riverhead Planning Board meeting. If everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to open the meeting. Today is Thursday, February 3rd. This evening, we have several discussion items, the first being landmark at Riverhead. We have Greg Bergman. You would like to begin the discussion?
Yep, we do have Wayne Steck. He is the developer for the project. So this application is being discussed before the planning board because it's a town board site plan application to construct a 5-story mixed-use building on East Main Street. While the planning board does not have site plan approval or site plan authority over this application, the reason it's being referred to you for your review and comment is because the project requires a special permit. The town code guidelines require a referral for all special permit applications to the planning board. We'll then transmit your comments and your feedback back to the town board for their consideration and review of the project. So just a quick background on it. The project site is 103-105 East Main Street, which is the old West Marine building on East Main Street in downtown Riverhead. Site plan application proposes to demolish the existing commercial structure and construct a 5-story mixed-use building with approximately 7,300 square feet of ground floor commercial space, currently proposed as restaurant and retail use, and a total of 48 apartments on upper floors 2 through 5. One of the major components of the project, which I raised to the town board, right now the site plan does not propose any on-site parking. Pursuant to the town code section 301-231I, the applicant is not required to provide parking because they are located within the Riverhead Parking District number 1. I do know, just based on calculations, based on the total use of the property, the ground floor commercial space and the apartment uses, if they were required to provide on-site parking, they would require a total of 99 stalls. That's based on the rate of 1.5 parking stalls per dwelling unit and a rate of 1 parking stall per 300 square feet of ground floor commercial space. Regarding the pattern book, the Downtown Riverhead Pattern Book was a document that was adopted by the town board back in January of 2021. That pattern book was prepared by Urban Design Associates, and it basically set forth a number of recommendations and guidelines to guide private development within the DC1 zoning district. Although the town board adopted that pattern book, they have not codified any of the recommendations. So at this point, it's really just a guidance document. But some of the things that I did raise to the town board to consider, right now the pattern book recommends a maximum of 4 stories and a maximum height of 50 feet. Right now the building is currently proposed. The elevation on Main Street is approximately 51 feet, and because the grade of the property slopes down as you get down towards the river, the height is approximately 56 to 58 feet on the southern end of the property. The pattern book does recommend building step backs above the 3rd story at a 45-degree angle in order to help reduce the massing. Right now, the building does not propose any step backs. It does propose a mansard roof on the 5th floor, but it does not actually step back those upper floors. Pattern book made some recommendations in terms of setbacks from the front street. So the pattern book recommends a minimum setback equal to the adjacent buildings with a maximum setback of 3 feet from the adjacent buildings. So one of the recommendations I had was, in order to allow for a clear, pass-by area along the walkway, the applicant can step back the front of that building along East Main Street. It can step back 3 feet. That would allow for some outdoor dining because there is a restaurant proposed on that East Main Street, right on that front commercial space. And it would allow just free and clear pedestrian walkways around the building. The applicant seemed amenable to that when we presented it to the town board. They also recommend, the pattern book also recommends net zero energy, ways to incorporate green technologies to help bring the project, basically self-sustaining or as close to as we can in terms of electrical. They do propose closing the I refer to it in the staff report as a right-of-way, but it's actually part of the town parking lot. It's one parcel. I just
I
refer.
saw that, I was curious, I'm trying to find where I read it, but they're gonna take away the town right away?
So, right now, it's as a temporary construction staging area.
Oh, so
The application does not propose to permanently eliminate that. We have met with the applicant, with the fire marshal. The fire marshal was pretty adamant about maintaining that access. So right now, it's just for temporary construction and staging purposes. I do note that the western edge of that, the sidewalk, which fronts up, it used to be Sonny's Grill.
Yeah.
And as you get farther down, there is the handicap accessible ramp to the barber shop located in the back end of that building. So at a minimum, if the town board does agree to that, to allow that area for temporary construction staging, that western walkway should be kept open to maintain access for that. In terms of piling and vibration impacts, the applicant's proposing to use helical piles as opposed to traditional pile-driven, so that should help reduce vibration impacts to neighboring properties. Again, brought that up to the town board, they might consider just some pre-construction surveys of neighboring buildings to see if there is any damage during construction. We'll recommend, consistent with other development, to underground all of the utilities. Right now, there are utility lines in front of the building on East Main Street and heading down that parking lot right-of-way area. Proposing exterior lighting, which is all compliant. There is trash collection area located at the rear end of the building, which would be accessed on the south side of the building. I believe that would serve for the commercial use as well as the residential apartment use. They're proposing connections to water and sewer district. We'll refer them to the landmarks and ARB in the course of the review project. But like I said, in a nutshell, that's the summary of the project.
Are
Again,
these
it's
market rate or workforce, or what kind of housing is it?
Market rate.
Market rate?
yes.
You guys looking for IDA benefits?
We'd like to. I built the Summerwin building also, so I would ask for the same type tax abatement that I got on that building when we constructed it.
Greg, where are we at? I know there was a certain number of total apartments in downtown. Do you know where we're at?
So there was a.
500.
Yeah, the town code has a cap of 500. Right now, with all the projects that are currently under review,
508.
it was either 500, I thought it was 512, but within
Okay,
that.
you could be right.
The way the code's written is a little problematic because it says upon the issuance of a 500th certificate of occupancy, basically that's the cap is met. I mean, that could potentially put the town in a situation where you've issued building permits for multiple projects and you're gonna give the first guy to finish is gonna get his COs and then you meet the cap. So that's something that the town board's gotta.
That's based on COs, not based on,
Correct, not
projects
based
being
on the issuance of a
proposed.
building permit, not a approval, that's just the issuance of a CO. So that's something that I did raise to the town board, and they really do need to consider. 'Cause
Yeah, I think we're gonna need a little clarity.
Yeah, we need some clarity on that, because how do you tell this gentleman it's okay to build it, and then you can't get a CO? And, parking is a large concern on this as well. Another 68, was it 68? 48, for another 48 residences. The same problem with the water district. I mean, they've told us they've got issues. This is, I'm assuming, going to be a totally sprinkled building, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the town board's gonna initiate the secret process, as I said, they will request lead agency on it, they do have special permit and site plan approval authority for that. Other projects that we've reviewed, recently, the 205 Osborne project, they had a map and plan prepared. There were significant improvements to the water district that were needed to support that project, so there may be similar improvements required to be able to support this project.
the way the land slopes, and Greg brought it up, it was 58 feet in the back and 51 in the front, so, and we know everything goes down. Isn't it possible that you could look at this project and put parking underneath?
We actually had a plan originally, 2 years ago, we first submitted with, we could get, I think it was 12 or 14 spots under the building. But the town is working on raising the parking lot because of the flooding issues. So it's gonna make it unfeasible to have parking on the site. So that's also
But
why
then
the
you got
building
the
is
other
not.
two apartments that are built that already have their parking underneath.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think those other, 331 East Main Street is currently under construction. I believe they provided 36 parking stalls on the ground floor. I don't know how many the Gallo project provided on the ground floor. I don't know that they necessarily have the same situations going on. Like I said, when the town square happens and the revitalization of that riverfront area happens, if they do raise that grade, that would eliminate really any potential to access that underground garage.
Was a problem for the other two, I think.
I mean, those were, that the town square project, now that it's really moving forward, those other projects were permitted and constructed before that project was really envisioned. I mean, parking does generally seem to be the large concern. I mean, the reality of it, providing market rate apartments without any parking on site.
Are they one bedroom or two bedroom, sir? One
There
bedroom or two?
are 3 apartments, a 2-bedroom. The rest, I don't know the exact count, but it's 90% 1-bedroom and 10% studio.
I noticed in the plans that some of them have additional rooms that you call, I think you refer to it as a den. Is it a den or
I think there's 2 units.
2 units? That could be a nice way of saying it's a 2-bedroom.
No, it's a very small room, there's no closet, no,
I mean, they're small. I mean, I did the math, they're 500 feet. 500 and a little over 500 feet. I mean, they're not very big. I still have problems swallowing the fact that they're marketable like that, but, I mean, how many do we have now? I mean, coming up, we keep loading up that parking lot in the back, which has no more room. I mean, there is absolutely no room. Where did these?
And where are these cars going to park?
right now, behind this building, the parking lot is mostly empty. Where behind the town square, that section there, no one ever parks in there. I don't know how many spots there are, maybe 30, 40, I'm not really sure. But it's that section, and the furthest part away from Peconic Avenue, that main parking lot, is usually the back few rows are empty. It's just close to Peconic and Main Street that's full.
I'm concerned about the impact that this is going to have on the town square itself that is coming. They're going to require parking for that as well. And you have this 5-story building now, to the west of what town square will be. It's going to block all the sun in the, around, noon to 3, 11 to 3. It's going to be an eyesore next to the town square, and the town is putting a lot of money into the town square, and we've thankfully received grants towards that, and I really think that should be further looked at to see what that impact will be for the town of Riverhead.
I've had meetings with Bob, who wrote the pattern book, and he loved the design and all the detailed elements. And also, I had meetings with town board and some of the other planners and people on the board, and they think this is the perfect bookend for the town square, to have this on one side and then town building on the opposite side of town square.
Well, I'll tell you, when I looked at the plans, what I saw were plans that were trying to camouflage a 5-story building into, you have buildings on either side that really don't exist. They don't look like that.
No, I have actually, I could show you, I have renderings with the actual buildings, what they look like.
Don't cover up your microphone, thank you.
So that's with the actual, from Main Street look, with the actual building next door, the diner. And from the front, it's a 4-story building.
What's going to
The
be on
back
the east,
level
what's
has
on
a
the east side of
mezzanine.
the building?
Well, that's gonna
Is
be
that
the
what town square is?
This is,
So the east, the property to the east, I believe, is owned by the Long Island Science Center.
Science Center, okay. So that's not directly where
that's not,
the town square
that's
would
right
be
here.
one
So the
building
Science
over.
Center is here. and then the town square end of the building would be on this side.
And your proposal is for one restaurant only?
Our proposal is for a food court style Chelsea Markets, restaurant, vegetables in the front section. That's why it's only 4 stories and it has really high ceilings in the front of the building. So that I want to create an outdoor space indoors so we could have like skylights that look like the lights coming in. And in the back of the building where there's just regular retail, there's 6 apartments on a mezzanine so that the second floor apartments in the front continues all the way through. So from the front on Main Street, it looks like a 3-story building with a mansard roof, but it's 4 stories. And in the back of the building, it looks like a 4-story building, I'll show you that, with the mezzanine level. This is the back view from the Conic River. So there's a section here, this right here, these windows, that's a mezzanine level in the back of the building. It doesn't go to the front.
This is the back of the building and the parking lot is there, is that?
This is what you're gonna see when you're in the parking lot.
What's that building on the left there?
The barber shop.
Oh, okay.
And this one is, this brick building on this side, that's gonna be the science center.
Right, okay. You said something about a 3-foot space. Is that what you gotta provide?
What's that?
between the-
Well, so, I mean, that's
On the
a
east side?
recommendation for the pattern book. Basically, instead of having like a unified street wall, for lack of a better term, the ground floor of that could be stepped back 3 feet. Thought process there, you could
No, I'm
have,
talking about the separation on the east side.
Well, on one side, we have the road, so there's, I
The
don't
other
know,
side, the
50
east
feet.
side.
The other side, right now, there's no buffer, and we're creating a 7-foot buffer between us and the science center for 90% of the building. We're gonna have, on the first floor, I wanna build connected to the building next door, only because I don't want that to become a 7-foot alleyway for people to walk through. I want to just create space in the back and from the front on Main Street, it looks like it's connected to the science center.
Greg, did you actually research the number of spaces that have been allotted towards the 500, assuming all the projects that are on the books will be built, to get an idea how much parking?
so what I'll do, I'll provide you guys with a copy of the strategic parking plan. The parking plan was very thorough. It analyzed the number of spaces.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
It went through each different parking lot throughout town, looked at it during peak hours, which I believe was around 10 a.m. Was the peak utilization period. I'll provide you a copy of that so you can review it, and it goes over a number of parking stalls, locations, utilization during hours.
What is the occupancy rate? Have you got any idea of the building that's completed now? Is that occupied 100%?
I believe it is.
It's 100% occupied?
I believe they've got a wait list, yes.
Got a wait list.
Yeah.
What will be on the ground floor on the riverside of,
Retail. It could be a candy store, antiques, art gallery. It's not really, I don't have any tenants lined up yet, but 3 small boutique-type tenants.
I mean, the DC1 zoning district allows a number, I mean, it's proposed as retail, but it could easily be converted if it was another restaurant use. One consideration, look at Peconic County Brewing Company. I think that's an excellent utilization of a riverfront area. You get activity down there, you get nice outdoor seating, nice view of the river. I mean, that's the gem of the town. I mean, again, just something for the applicant to consider, having a more active use rather than just a retail use. You really want to shout out that, riverfront view.
The building that is not complete yet with all the apartments next to,
Next to the aquarium?
yeah,
Salvation Army?
Salvation Army, yeah, the Salvation Army. How many apartments are in there?
I believe it's either 36 or 37. And again, I believe that project
Where
was
do they park?
They provided, I believe, 36 stalls
They
on
have
the ground
36
floor.
under there? I didn't remember that, okay.
Yeah, that project, that
Okay.
wasn't, that was a town board site plan, because it's in
I
the
know,
urban
I know.
renewal area. But yeah, they do have some ground level
Okay.
parking on
Has
there.
it been any consideration, years ago, they talked about building a parking garage?
Still talking about it.
Is it still
There,
being talked
I mean,
about?
there are,
Nothing's
I mean,
happening?
that is part of the TOD study, the TOD project that's going on. There are considerations. The exact location of it right now is unknown. But again,
They
that's,
say the district is too small to support a parking garage. You'll never get a bond for it, so I personally don't think that's gonna happen. So we have to be mindful of parking. I tell you one thing, I think Joanne made a good point about the height and some of the things like that, but I think that looks a heck of a lot better than the blighted building we've had there for the last 25 years.
Thank you.
Concept is great. I mean, I like the market, that whole concept. I like the building. I like the porches or the lanais, whatever you want to call them, on the back of the building. It's all pretty. It's, water problems, parking problems, and we have more coming in front of us all the time. At what point does someone make a decision on, parking where you're going to run out of spaces? There's no question about it.
It'd be like the malls are at Christmas time. You have to ride around and follow somebody in
Yeah.
a car so you can get the
Literally.
parking space.
And, the stores that are on Main Street now in that area, you go there at night and try to find a parking spot. It's virtually non-existent, where do you go? Main Street's, it's,
Brendan, they're talking about having entertainment at the town square, that's
yeah,
going to bring
exactly.
more
As you
vehicles
start
in.
adding all of that in. I mean, you
Just-
don't have the jazz festival's gone. There's a reason that's gone. There's no place to hold it any longer, And it all started with, one apartment house, and now we have 4 more.
Are there going to be children allowed to live in these apartments?
We only have 3 two-bedrooms, and I mean, I love kids, I have grandchildren, it's great, but personally, I like my buildings with as little children as possible. My other building that has 52 apartments, I think we have 4 children, and has the same 3 two-bedroom apartments.
so I mean, you can't restrict people from having children. I did, because that is a concern that's been brought up between town board, comments that have been made at public hearings. There was a market study done by the Stony Brook University Real Estate Institute. It did an analysis of a number of apartment complexes on Long Island, market rate units, and found that the contribution of school-aged children was very small. I actually foiled the Riverhead Central School District, specifically the properties, the Gallo project, the one with Peconic County Brewing, the Summerwind project, and the Peconic Crossing project, which are currently constructed, fully occupied. I don't have the exact numbers on me, but the Gallo building was like 5 or 6 children. Summerwind was like 2 or 3. The one that was kind of the standout was the Peconic Crossing, but I believe that has to do, I don't know if it's either affordable or another type of housing, but there were a number of children that came out of that unit. But that was a standout in terms of, contributing school children. So I mean, realistically, when you look at that Gallo building, I believe it's like 70 or 80 apartments to have 5 students come out of that. I mean, you could have that come out of 2 single-family residences easily. So the contribution to school districts from market rate apartments is typically very low.
Okay, I had to ask.
Greg, I still think we're gonna need more clarity on the 500 number. We have to find out how many COs that we've issued, and if the number was 500, town board's gonna have to make a decision. Are they gonna keep going, or are they gonna cap it at 500?
I know Dawn Thomas, when we reviewed this with the town board, there was a market study done that recommended eliminating that cap. I don't know what direction the town board's gonna go with that.
Yeah.
But I will surely, what I'll do is I'll draft up a resolution formalizing your recommendations to the board. I'll go and I'll recap everything that we had here. We'll have you have you vote on it at the next meeting. We can transmit that to the town board for their consideration.
Is it a resolution or just a letter?
I would probably adopt the letter by resolution. I think would probably be good practice.
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody good?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do you want copies of the renderings or it's not needed?
We have,
I think the ones that you had might be older versions.
Yeah, so we don't have those.
You want a new version?
No. I did, but it's not the same as this. No.
I'll send Greg PDF so you can distribute them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go safe, it's foggy out there.
Long ways away.
Okay, next up, we have a proposed drive-in restaurant and retail site, which we will continue with Greg.
Yeah, this is just a quick update. So this project has been around for a number of years. It was previously Sonic Drive-In Restaurant. It was reviewed, I believe it came sometime 2016, 2017. Right now, Sonic is not involved. The applicant's intention is to move the project forward, get some approvals, and hopefully be able to lure Sonic back as a tenant, but right now they are not involved. So the application, because it is a drive-in restaurant, is required a special permit from the town board within the business zoning district. The town board granted that special permit on January 19th, 2022, so we just approved it about 2 weeks ago. Just watch out for the microphone there. Since the board has last seen it, the project has been slightly revised. They've reduced the size of the building from 2,759 square feet to now 2,238 square feet for the drive-in restaurant. We'll have 20 indoor seats and 54 outdoor seats. They've since revised the plans. They do not need variances for the project anymore for any side yard setbacks. Like I said, the special permit was granted. And now we're at a point where, now that they've gotten the special permit, the planning board can move forward with scheduling a public hearing on the site plan.
How did you find the traffic flow in that plan that's put before us?
So they did, that was one of the comments earlier in the review. They did widen the traffic aisles around the site before it kind of created a little, now if traffic was queuing in the drive-through, it basically left a very narrow pass-by lane to go around it, so they did widen it, I believe, to 22 feet, so that should leave sufficient space for a car to be in the drive-through lane, and then have traffic circulate throughout the site. The applicant did submit a traffic impact statement, which was reviewed by the town board during the special permit process. That traffic impact statement found that there would be no significant negative impacts from the project. They are proposing ingress and egress on both Old Country Road as well as on Osborne Avenue. I know one of the board's concerns early on was the impacts to the Riverhead Ambulance Barn, if it was going to be blocked during high congestion hours. I believe they did prepare a queuing plan on this, and I believe it was, in order for them to, so an average car, before the traffic would back up on the site, there would need to be 43 cars in that drive-through lane. That's a significant amount of vehicles.
43 cars?
That would be, if the drive-through lane was completely full and traffic was backed up through, it would take 43 cars before the Riverhead Ambulance Barn was backed up.
Where would the cars on Osborne be? Would they be on the road, or is it going to be widened? Let's say to have a right turn lane.
So right now, there is no right turn lane proposed. So hypothetically, if it was ever in a situation
Back up
where
on
there were
Osborne.
43 vehicles, they would hypothetically be queued into Osborne Avenue. Maybe the applicants, design professionals, I know there's a number of Sonics on the island now. Maybe they can speak to peak operation hours, how many cars they typically see during, dinner time, lunchtime.
Yes, Jeff Lazarus at R&M Engineering. We prepared the traffic study. We're in the process now of going to be counting the Sonic that just recently opened November 2001 in Shirley. And we'll have that information, the queuing, the parking, everything else. And then we'll revise our report to reflect that information.
Okay, let me just make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. So when you pull in from Osborne Avenue,
Yes.
do you drive directly into where the queue is?
No, you drive
You
around.
have to go all the way
Around
around
the building,
to the
correct.
south of the building.
Correct. Correct.
The retail building, is that as far west as that can go?
Yes, that's the, we had to get a DEC permit for that location.
Part of theirs?
Yeah.
A
Yes.
DEC permit, why, is there wetlands there?
Yes. Not on this property, on the adjacent property.
I mean,
That's why I was asking about the traffic flow, because if you,
stuff in the back.
obviously, on the Osborne Avenue side, you'd have to go all the way around the complete parking lot.
Right.
And then go into the, to get into that line of traffic. And since nothing here is actually drawn to scale, you don't really, it's hard to determine exactly how much room
You
there
gotta put
is.
a big wall there, because people are gonna look to hustle.
Good afternoon, my name is Anthony Stankinelli, I'm with Furnaces Engineering and the Laura Group. We did the engineering and the design internally. And the reason why we wrapped it around the building is just in case there is a large queue. We want to contain everything on site. We don't want anything to go to Osborne. 43 cars is all hypothetical, and that should never happen. The only chance that could happen is maybe opening day, which it hasn't recently. I was personally at the Shirley opening. We were there all day. There was no more than 12 or 13 cars in the queue. And that's for Sonic. Right now, we don't have Sonic as a tenant anymore. This project has been going, I guess, back and forth with the town. I think you said it last time.
2016.
Yeah,
7 years.
26, yeah, I mean, this was one of Karen's when she was here, but this, it kind of has come and gone in waves.
No, I mean, the applicant has spent a lot of time and effort to
Yeah,
get
I
to
mean,
this point,
we really,
and I hope they have some indication from Sonic that they still might be interested.
I think there is a hope, but
They-
I think we need
They want to
approvals.
see how the public hearing goes, and if it goes well, they are interested in stepping back in.
They're not on it's not on the table right now.
But there's no sign
I
list.
understand that.
And a lot of that, the novelty phase, I had seen that in previous staff reports. Everyone referred to the Deer Park Avenue one, which was the first one that opened on Long Island, created significant traffic down Deer Park Avenue. Since then, they've opened a number of locations. There's one in Lake Grove, there's one in Shirley, there's been a couple others that have opened, so it's kind of dispersed that demand where
Absolutely.
they may not be anticipating such a surge when they first open it.
Right.
And if it is a Sonic, they're willing on opening day to have people there. One of the owners were actually there on the Shirley site, helping directing traffic, making sure everything ran smoothly. They do a good job, and the hype is really over.
One of the conditions from the town board on the special use permit was that there has to be a do not block box in front of the ambulance driveway. So I think that is helpful as well, to make
Yeah,
sure that cars, if it ever queued up that far back, that there would be a next block there that you can't clearly mark that you can't park or you can't block it.
I still think a right turn lane should be considered, because people are gonna be turning, not necessarily
From
queuing.
Osborne?
From Osborne, just to widen Osborne so that there's enough room. People that are going into the site, they can slow
Well, it
down,
says,
move
look,
to the
it
right
says
to
do
get
not
in.
enter, so.
Right.
Oh,
Meaning north of the site. As
Oh,
you're heading,
that way,
as you're
okay.
heading south, I believe.
There's
you-
the air coming,
Oh,
people
yeah.
coming
Okay.
You
south.
could widen it to provide
You
some
would-
sort of like shoulder, some turn-off lane so that.
it looks like you got like a 3-foot snow strip right there by the entrance and a 5-foot sidewalk. You would have to take property away from the ambulance district to put a turn lane.
Something else I might suggest on the Osborne Avenue, on the southern entrance there, I know that there's no entrance, but I would suggest some signage up front, do not enter,
Yes.
because,
I mean,
because they'll go in there.
They are
Nobody
completely
looks at
proposed.
the street, they'll go straight in, believe me.
Yep,
Hey, Greg,
absolutely. There are.
the western portion that has a do not disturb area, is that part of the calculation?
No,
It's not.
subtract it out. There's actually a map in the set that's colored and it shows all the
Okay,
areas not included.
Because my concern is, I'm happy to welcome Sonic. I just think this awful busy parking lot with a minimal landscaping. I mean, the landscaping plan to me, like on Osborne Avenue, I think it's like 5 feet or,
So when they're coming out of here, they have to merge back in with the oncoming traffic that's coming onto the property?
no landscaping between the two buildings.
Well, overall, the minimum contiguous landscaping required is 5%. We're providing 33%.
Hey, Anthony, I think that's the plan that he's looking at.
Oh, right here's a landscape plan, yeah. It's all colored. Looks a lot better when you can see a colored rendering of all the all the trees.
So as far as the traffic coming in, when the vehicle leaves the pickup counter, they have to merge into the oncoming new traffic that's going around the building to get into the queue. Is that correct?
Yes. You're talking about coming down here, then there'll be stop control, and then they can proceed on.
Right, you mean coming in from Osborne?
When you're coming in through, into
Yes.
Osborne, there'll be cars on the side that are ready to pick up
They're in the
their
queue
orders.
already. They will drive by, yes.
So they're going to have to merge in with the cars that are
Yes.
coming.
They'll be
And
traveling
waiting
at,
to get on
they'll be
tomorrow.
traveling at a slow speed. In my opinion, I think that, it'll work fine, because they're at the end of the queue, they're getting their stuff, and they're getting ready to leave, and then they'll just move forward when there's a gap in the traffic.
That's typical in any fast food. There's a bypass lane
Right,
and
I'm
they have to
There
move.
isn't any-
envisioning McDonald's, that's.
They're all
right,
like that,
yeah,
yep.
Okay.
There's any kind of guardrail there, right, to drive to around the traffic, is there? I mean, we see that line there, there isn't any kind of a guardrail,
I believe that's probably
I
the
couldn't
strike.
find it.
No guardrail.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it doesn't appear to be a curb or any type of physical
No,
delineation.
it's a concrete pad.
Yeah,
so they
no,
stay
I
on
just,
the-
the way it's, I asked the question because it's drawn out that way.
You said 33% of
Contiguous.
Contiguous landscaping overall.
Does that include the non-disturbed area?
There's a little note that states exactly what's included.
Want to see mine, please?
30%.
I mean, contiguous landscaped area would include any natural areas of vegetation as well as any planted areas. I mean, if it is,
Got it?
if that non-disturbance buffer is included, it would be counted as a vegetated area.
Does anybody have anything that they'd like
Well,
to add?
Yeah, I think at least along Route 58, possibly along Osborne, there should be like a 2 to 3 foot berm. This way, when people ride by, they can see the structure, but they don't have to look at the sea of pavement. Like a 1 on 3 berm in the front.
There actually is. If you look at the grading plan, it
I
goes
don't have the
from...
grading plan.
Oh, yes, it is burned up.
It is? How much?
This side, the left-hand side goes from elevation 3050 to 3350. The right-hand side is the same. So there's almost a 3-foot berm.
That's Old Country Road, right, Anthony?
Yep.
What about on the Osborne?
On Osborne, there is no berm.
It's gonna be hard to burn. We'll get,
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of space on Osborne to provide a berm. It would be very narrow.
Resolution.
Yeah, I mean, if there's design changes that the board, deems appropriate and would require, they can be made a condition of any approvals that the board grants, but, I mean, just moving the application along, there's no reason to not hold a public hearing at this point.
Okay. Everybody good? Yep. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to continue on with our discussion for Bating Hollow Farms Vineyard.
All right, so we have a continued discussion, a site plan proposing to construct a new 84 foot by 84 foot barn style wine tasting pavilion. The plans have since been amended. There has been modifications. It now includes a covered porch. There's also been some modifications from prior plans. Previous plans called for a 2,500 square foot farm equipment barn. I had received back in November plans, and their engineer detailed some of the changes. They noted changes in footprints. That 2,500 square foot farm equipment barn, and these current plans now has a roughly 1,000 square foot concrete pad on the back of it. It shows electrical, gas, and water connections, as well as a sanitary system. The board back in October had
They were all included on the original site plan.
The sanitary system had, the pad was not, the concrete pad was not, and I don't believe it showed electrical or gas.
No, we did have electric and gas in there.
So back in October, the board had a resolution before the board to consider a preliminary approval. That resolution failed to get adopted. In the time since the last meeting, I have spoken with the planning board attorney, I have spoken with members of the planning board. So I have prepared a revised preliminary approval resolution, which I would like the board to consider. I feel we've done the best job that we can, being considerate to comments received at the public hearing. We've received numerous letters and emails and other correspondence from neighboring residents. So to really kind of summarize the changes in this current preliminary site plan approval resolution, I put one of the conditions that the planning board finds it reasonable and prudent in order to protect the quality of life for neighboring residents due to the project's location within a residential zoning use district, which is located in the RA 40 and RA 80 zoning use district, to prohibit the playing of music outside the building, either live or amplified by speakers, and that the noise ordinance provisions of the Riverhead Town Code, Chapter 251, shall be complied with, that the tasting room and all other activities open to the public or private guests on the subject property shall close no later than 9 p.m. The proposed 2,500 square foot farm equipment barn shall only be used for the storage of farm equipment, shall not be utilized for any other commercial use, including wine tasting, public gathering, or private events. Water service to the proposed farm equipment building shall be limited to that which is necessary for cleaning and maintenance of farm equipment. There shall be no kitchen in the wine tasting pavilion, and there shall be no cooking of food on site. The applicant and any subsequent owners and operators of the property shall maintain sole control over the sound system within the building, and that any performers, musical groups, disc jockeys, etc., shall be required to utilize the existing sound system and be prohibited from utilizing their own equipment. And I did just recommend some changes to the site plan itself, indicating that the wine tasting is considered an accessory use under town code. Plans need to be revised to comply with the town engineer's comments. The proposed sanitary system for the 2,500 square foot farm equipment barn shall be removed, as the proposed use of the barn shall be limited to the storage of farm equipment. The proposed concrete pad be removed from the 2,500 square foot farm equipment barn in order to restrict further commercial expansion of the barn, and to re-add the preliminary landscaping plan back to the site plan packet. Really tried to do our best to try to be sensitive to the applicant's application, as well as the, like I said, the numerous comments that we've received from the neighboring residences. The planning board in recent years has considered, there was two that I've referenced, the Jamesport Farm Brewery, as well as the Riverhead Cider House. Both of those approvals included restrictions on outdoor music, as well as hours of operation. So it is consistent with other recently approved applications. Now, while they may not be identical uses, we do have a brewery as well as a cider house. They are public gathering spaces where alcohol is served, so they're not that different in terms of the nature of their use. So what we have before the board here is a resolution to try to be as sensitive to all parties involved.
We were here 2 weeks ago, and we discussed all of this in great detail. We spoke at length about outdoor amplified music and the concerns of the board and local residents. Ed then said, I'd like to make a recommendation that we bring up the resolution as it was written and see if it can garner 3 votes. We then spoke about additional restrictions that may be possible, and Greg said, this was the resolution that was originally written, that I think we did our best job to try to address all these issues here. And then Greg went on to say, you can't presuppose a violation. George agreed and said, we can't single out this place. I suggest that we just rewrite the resolution as you suggested. Ed agreed and said, you can't regulate human behavior. If someone is going to break the law, they're going to break the law. So what happened between now and then? I don't know. I'd like to address all of the changes that were made, because there were more than what Greg just brought up. The first one says, the planning board has received numerous letters, emails, and other correspondence from neighboring residents in opposition to the proposed project, citing objections to those noise levels and traffic levels generated at the proposed site. So he's citing to noise level objections. Well, they must be objecting about noise levels that haven't occurred yet. They must be making complaints to the town about what may happen in the future, because on January 10, 2022, I made a Freedom of Information request to the town of Riverhead. My request stated, please provide copies of all written complaints and/or records of any verbal complaints related to outdoor music and amplified events in the town of Riverhead from September 1st, 2020 through the present. September 20th is when we took over. I received 2 responses from the town of Riverhead. One was from the Records Access Officer and the other from the town clerk and code enforcement. A total of 19 complaints were filed in the town of Riverhead between that time. One of them had to do with the racetrack at Grumman's, and the other 18 complaints were about a place in Jamesport. No complaints were made about outdoor music in Baiting Hollow, never mind any complaints about Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard. So why did these people send in numerous letters, emails, and other correspondence to the town about noise levels? Were they presupposing a violation? Well, like Greg said last time, you can't presuppose violations. Another addition I take issue with, the proposed 2,500 square foot farm equipment barn shall only be used for the storage of farm equipment and shall not be utilized for other commercial uses, including wine tasting, public gatherings, private events. Greg, are farmers allowed to use their wine equipment barns for wine tasting, having public gatherings or private events in their barns? Of course not. So why put it in the resolution? Are we presupposing some more violations at the vineyard? Other issues. Water service to the proposed farm equipment building shall be limited to that which is necessary for cleaning and maintenance of the farm equipment. The proposed sanitary system of 2,500 square feet farm equipment barn shall be removed, as the proposed use of the barn shall be limited to the storage of farm equipment. Well, at a vineyard and in the farm equipment building, there are employees. They work all hours of the day, and you know what? From time to time, they have to go to the bathroom. Right now, we have a porta potty set up in the parking lot for these workers to use. There's no heat, no running water in a porta potty, so why can't we have a single bathroom with heat and hot water for these workers? Is the board again presupposing that we're going to violate the use of this farm equipment barn somehow? Now, I'd like to remind the board of their mission. Okay, this is what's posted on your website. The planning board is responsible for guiding development of land and growth within the town of Riverhead in accordance with the Riverhead town zoning ordinances, state statutes, and subdivision regulations. So if the Suffolk County Department of Health approves a sanitary system and doesn't have a problem with there being a bathroom in there, what Riverhead Town zoning ordinance, state statute, or subdivision regulation is being violated? Are we again presupposing that we're going to be doing something in violation with this barn? As you previously said, Greg Bergman, our Riverhead Town planning aide, said you can't presuppose a violation. Another part of the resolution I have a problem with, the proposed concrete pad shall be removed from the 2,500 square foot equipment barn in order to restrict further commercial expansion. The barn has 3 garage doors in the back of it. Does the board suggest that we should stand in the dirt when we clean our equipment or lay on the ground while we're servicing them? Is it too much to ask for a driveway in the back of a barn with 3 garage doors? Is there a Riverhead Town zoning ordinance, state statute, subdivision regulation that's being violated by putting a concrete pad adjacent to a 3-car garage behind a barn? Of course not. And when you said, in order to restrict further commercial expansion of the barn, are you again presupposing that we're going to be violating some type of use of this equipment barn? There are plenty of laws on the books currently that regulate the use of farm equipment barns. In fact, the first meeting I had with Jefferson Murphy, who's the town's building and planning administrator, told me that farm equipment buildings don't even require planning board approval, since pursuant to Agriculture and Markets Law 305A 1A, local governments shall not unreasonably restrict or regulate farm operations within agricultural districts in contravention of the purpose of this article, unless it could be shown that the public health or safety is threatened. So how's the public health being threatened by putting a bathroom in a concrete pad adjacent to a farm equipment barn? Or is the board just less concerned with guiding the development of land and growth within the town of Riverhead than they are controlling our use of the farm equipment barn? Like Ed said, you can't regulate human behavior. That is one, really bothers me. The tasting room and other activities open to public or private on the subject property shall close no later than 9 o'clock. And what's worse than that is what's conspicuously missing from the resolution that was in the original resolution. The original resolution stated, whereas pursuant to New York State Agricultural District Law, Section 25AA, Section 305A, guidelines for review of local laws affecting farm operations which produce, prepare, and market crops for wine. The New York Department of State Ags and Markets conclude that on-farm wedding receptions, parties, and special events which are held at farms which market their crops as wine help market the farm's operation product. So by leaving that out, are we now prohibiting weddings at the vineyard? Well, there's 2 other vineyards on Sound Avenue, RGNY and Palmer Vineyard. Both have weddings. Both have weddings that go later than 9 o'clock. RGNY's website actually says if hosting a wedding, your event has to start at 3 p.m. and must end by midnight. Okay? Palmer Vineyard's website says local conditions require that there is no amplified music outdoors after 10 p.m. So it's reasonable to conclude that their weddings can go on later than that. They just would either have to go indoors or they'll have to turn the music off. But no, we want to shut down my vineyard at 9 o'clock. You know, in an Article 78 proceeding, one can challenge a government's decision that was made in violation of lawful procedure, was affected by an error of law, was arbitrary and capricious, and constituted abuse of discretion. To prove whether a government's decision is arbitrary and capricious or constitute an abuse of discretion, the petitioner must show that the injustices and negative impacts of the challenged decision. Well, if Baden Hollow Farm Vineyard is the only vineyard on Sound Avenue that's not permitted to have weddings, or we could have them until 9 o'clock, that would not only be unfair, it would be unjust, and it would result in a significant impact financially. I mean, let me ask you. If everything else was equal, would you have your wedding at Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard or RGNY or Palmer Vineyard? I wouldn't have it at Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard. I don't want my wedding to end at 9 and the music, and no music at all. Oh, that's right, we're gonna be outside at Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard for our wedding. It's gonna be so beautiful outside, but we can't have any music. It's unjust, and it will negatively impact Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard. Now, finally, the most disturbing one. That the planning board finds it reasonable and prudent in order to protect the quality of life for neighboring residents due to the project's location within the residential zoning use district, to prohibit the playing of music outside the building, either live or amplified by speakers. So now we want to prohibit music altogether. And that means, so I can't even have a violin player prancing the vines and entertaining my guests? No, because you can't have any live music outside. Oh. And this is due to the project's location within the zoning use district? Then why during the SEQA review, that's the State Environmental Review Act, this board unanimously issued a negative declaration and resolved: the proposed agricultural use and accessory tasting room is consistent with the purpose and intent of the resident A80 zoning use district.
Can I interject something at this point? Would you mind if I interrupt you? Just a minute. Am I correct in stating that the income that's derived from other than the agricultural use cannot exceed 30%?
That's correct.
Okay, so keep that in mind.
Okay. Well, I
So
got-
out of all, let's just assume that you make $1 million selling wine, $333,000 is all you can make in addition to, with that use.
Well,
Okay,
the gross sale, the way the ag and market says, that the fees,
It's from
the
anything.
gross annual
basically.
sales from non-beverage portion of event sales, including any facility, rental, vendor fees, admission fees, catering charges, sale of other alcoholic beverages, et cetera, does not exceed 30% of total gross sales from the retail sale on-site of the beverage produced at the farm at such events.
So that's bringing in cider, bringing in someone else's wine, someone else's beer, whatever it is.
We're about,
And there's a provision in there, I believe, for the yearly inspection of the numbers.
yeah, well, it doesn't matter. If he doesn't allow music, there won't be any guests, there won't be any sales.
I just wanted to interject that.
Yeah, well,
I think the music that we're talking about has to do with the facility you want to construct,
no.
the building you want to construct.
The building, I'm allowed to have music inside,
Yes, but not.
but now you want
But
to
not outside.
stop having all the music outside where we do
That's
90% of
your
our business.
interpretation. That's your interpretation. It's just, you can't have from the building, there can't be amplifiers outside.
It said no outside music. Let me read it again. To prohibit the playing of music outside the building, either live or amplified by speakers. That's unambiguous.
I interpret that to be what goes on in the building stays in the building.
Well, then, with all due respect, you're interpreting it wrong. It says exactly what it says. To
that's the way I
prohibit the
interpret it.
playing of music outside the building. Doesn't say prohibiting music from inside going outside, which is irrespective. It's the same result. You're not allowed to have music outside, right? So you suggest that our people, the hundreds of people that are sitting outside, cannot listen to music.
You're going to
Either-
have hundreds of people here?
What's that?
You're going to have hundreds of people
We
here?
have hundreds of people there. And we have many hundreds of people at our place on weekend, and we don't disturb any of our neighbors. And it didn't just say amplified music, it said live music. So I can't even have that violin player or a guitar player. Is that gonna disturb the neighbors? Well, can I continue? It's got a little bit more to go. All right. I know this is gonna be bold, and I may be going out on a limb, and I mean no disrespect. But I'm here to tell you that you cannot prohibit the playing of outdoor music. First, the listening to music is a constitutionally protected freedom of expression under the First Amendment. In fact, there was a law in Florida that made it an infraction to play music in the car that was plainly audible 25 feet or more. Just so happened that a lawyer on his way to work one morning got pulled over and was given a ticket for playing the music too loud in his car. Instead of just paying the $73 ticket, he challenged the law, argued that it was an infringement upon his First Amendment right of freedom of expression. Well, both the trial court and the appellate courts in Florida, they didn't have any problem with the law, so he appealed it all the way to the state's highest court. The Florida Supreme Court held that the law was unconstitutional and that people have the right to play amplified music from private properties such as cars, and that the law was intrusive. This is what you're trying to do here. You're prohibiting me from playing music from my own property and prohibiting my guests from listening to it. Both of those are constitutionally protected. Second,
I still disagree. I still
what's that?
disagree. I still disagree, because this is an application just for your building to build. And this has to do with what you can and can't do within that building as far as music outside. Has nothing to do with your park, because your park isn't, your vineyard is not part of this application. It's just that one building you want to build.
So you say that the only way I can build this building is if I do not play music outside?
No, that if the music that's inside that building is not outside.
Is that what it is?
Because this is
Right,
only
if that's-
talking about
let's-
that building.
let's pencil
We're
it
not
in that way. I'll agree to that.
We're not talking about your whole site.
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that right now. Greg, put that in. That the music that's played inside the building will not be heard from outside the building. But the rest of the music outside that I currently...
That's my interpretation.
So then the music that I currently play outside is fine.
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
So that would be fine.
Yeah.
All right, so Greg, let's amend the resolution and get it signed. That's all my problem with. I don't have a problem with playing music indoors, because you won't be able to hear it. I'm gonna have a fully soundproof building. And if that's your concern, just people hearing it, the music from inside, outside? Okay,
I don't think that's what's intended.
well,
Clearly, they don't want you bringing live bands in outside or amplified music
right.
outside.
And that's
this
the
new
point I'm
building,
making. That,
Outside this new building.
and that the town can't do.
I disagree.
Okay, well, that's where we have the court system, don't we?
That's right, this is a site plan application
It's still gonna be the law of the town of Riverhead if it's imposed.
with respect to your site plan.
Right, of course. I'm the one that's the aggrieved party. I'm the one that has standing to bring the constitutional claim. Oh, you're gonna like this one even better then. The takings clause of the Fifth Amendment states that private property shall not be taken without just compensation. And while the Fifth Amendment by itself applies only to the federal government, the 14th Amendment extended it, the takings clause, to actions taken by state and local governments. Often when governments regulate a person's property, the effects on that person can be adverse. For example, when a government rezones an area from commercial to residential use, the property owner could suffer significant financial losses. But until 1922, the Supreme Court did not consider such diminution of value of a particular person's property as raising an issue under the takings clause. In that year, however, in a celebrated opinion by Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, the court held that if a regulation went too far, it could constitute a government taking. Well, I have over 1,300 signatures on a petition here. Okay? The petition states that we enjoy visiting Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard and all the other vineyards on the historic Sound Avenue corridor in the town of Riverhead. The music is intrinsic to the outdoor vineyard experience. That it would be unfair if Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard is prohibited from providing music outside among all its wonderful amenities and would likely cause us to go elsewhere on Sound Avenue to enjoy the experience. 1,300 people signed that. We generate 90% of our revenue from wine sales outside. People come because we have free live music every weekend. We don't charge a cover charge. We don't make people pay for the bands. If we don't have live music, people won't come. They will not come and sit inside our brand-new tasting house when it's beautiful outside in a spring or summer or fall day and listen to music indoors. They'll just go down the block. They'll go to the Cooperage. They'll go to the Jamesport Brewery. They'll go to RG and Wild. They'll go to Palmer Vineyard. Why are they going to sit outside and just talk to each other? Any rule that prohibits music and results in significant financial losses goes too far and will constitute a taking by the town of Riverhead. You know, in preparation for the hearing, I did a little extra research. I felt compelled last night to watch the movie Footloose. Any of you guys unfamiliar with the movie? It was about a small town in Texas that made a law prohibiting dancing. In an attempt to get the law rescinded, Kevin Bacon's character made an impassioned plea to the town board. He made all the common sense arguments, argued his support by all his fellow students, and he even quoted the Bible. He said, "Aren't we told in Psalm 149, praise ye the Lord, sing unto the Lord a new song. Praise them, his name, and dance." Despite the resounding applause by the crowd, the board voted no. So what did Kevin Bacon and everybody else do? They went to the next town over and had the biggest dance ever. And that's exactly what's gonna happen here. You outdoor music, people are gonna go elsewhere.
Once again, I would just say, in our resolution, it says music outside the building. The building is the one you want to build. That's what the intent is,
I'm with you, Joe.
okay?
I'm with you.
That's what the intent is.
Okay. We're on the same
Because
page.
this
I'm
is the
trying to
site
convince
plan.
the, I'm trying to convince
This is
the
a
other.
site plan for that.
Okay. Okay. So regarding the constitutionality of prohibiting outdoor music, it should be noted that when the courts review legislation, it demands only that the law be a rational means for achieving a legitimate government purpose. The courts will insist that the least restrictive means for attaining the ends the legislature seeks, that is, the least restrictive on such constitutionally protected interests as the freedom of expression. Here, the ends sought by the planning board is to protect the quality of life of the neighboring residents. And how do you seek to attain those ends? By prohibiting music altogether outside, either live or amplified music. Does anyone think that banning music altogether outside is the least restrictive way to protect the quality of life for the neighboring residents? I don't think so. Remember earlier, I spoke about my FOIL request and the responses that I received about a certain place in Jamesport? Well, most of those letters were written by the Greater Jamesport Civic Association and distributed to their members so they could sign them and send them into the town of Riverhead. In their very deliberative statements made in response to the outdoor music they claimed prevented them from enjoying the use of their property, they offered the town possible solutions in addition to their numerous complaints. In the letter they state, I quote, "Another solution would be for the venue to supply the music, not the performer or even the host, and control the volume. That's a much less restrictive means to achieve the board's goal to protect the quality of life of the neighboring residents, not outlawing music." And that is exactly what we've done at Baiting Hollow. We've already done that without anybody's suggestion. We put in a sound system so that we require all of our bands to plug in. We control the volume, and we have not had one complaint because we did a Freedom of Information request from September 20th when I took over of 2020 through January of 2022. Not one complaint was ever filed. So. We discussed that at the last meeting, about having these different venues that provide outdoor live music have the to require them all to have the same system that I have. And I remember what George said, he goes, yeah, that'd be great too, but unfortunately, we can't do that. And George may be right, but I voluntarily undertook the project and the costs associated with installing such a sound system that now you don't even want me to be allowed to use. So again, I don't know what happened between, 2 weeks ago and today, but I will not agree to any of these new conditions imposed, and I will, by all means necessary, fight them because they're unreasonable, they're unfair, and they're unconstitutional. And Ed, if you don't mind, I'd like to close by restating what you said at the end of the hearing last week. Do you mind?
Sure. Remember, go ahead.
Is it? When I grew up in Riverhead on Sound Avenue, it was mostly potatoes. It wasn't that historic, and it wasn't that great. Now Sound Avenue is great. It's a destination, and it's because of the wineries, because of the farm stands, because of the cider house, etc. The proposed barn absolutely fits on rural historic Sound Avenue. The closest house is about 1,500 feet away from the new barn. The applicant must meet all codes, including noise. I believe the applicant is a good neighbor, and the applicant should not be punished because another venue in Jamesport is abusing the town code and is being a bad neighbor. He should not have to pay the price. Growing up in Riverhead, we suffered from bad reputation, not being safe, etc., etc. Sound Avenue has changed that. Riverhead is now a destination. With that said, I vote yes.
Full chapter.
Questions for me?
Well, I have to tell you, 2 weeks ago, when I met you for the first time and heard about your vineyard, you basically described it as a very unique, almost, not your word, my word, quaint spot that people enjoy, looking at the scenery and walking the vineyard. And I was curious about it, so I went online and I did a little bit of research. And you never mentioned the beer garden that you have, the almost outdoor sports bar with all the beer that you have, with the outdoor televisions. Suddenly I started looking at it quite differently. You did not want to be compared to the Cider House or Jamesport Vineyard, but in essence, you're kind of in the same category there with what you're trying to do. And the restrictions that have been put on the Cider House and Jamesport Brewery is that they are not allowed to have music outside. And,
Have you ever visited them?
yes, I have.
Okay. Have you been there on a weekend?
That is not something that this board has any control over what's going on there. So our job is to make sure that the residents have the best quality of life. You're in a residential area. There are residents around you.
We have Live to the east. We have Owens Brothers Nursery to the west. We have farms behind us. We have about 4 houses across the street.
Well, I did notice when I was looking back at the minutes from the last meeting that you kind of just kept going back to that you would go out to Sound Avenue to do your noise meter, and that the people across the street, they're fine with it. There was never any mention of anybody else in the surrounding area. However, we're getting letter after letter from concerned residents that are opposed to this. It is going to have a huge impact to this, the Sound Avenue traffic. Not only for the noise, just for you going forward with your plans on what you're trying to do there.
Well, may I respond to that about the traffic? Again, this town voted unanimously in its negative declaration and said, the proposed tasting room expansion is not anticipated to create a significant increase in traffic compared to the existing use on the subject property. So, with all due respect, you could have your opinion, but this was an issue that was already addressed. And so you're saying, don't let me play outdoor music so I don't bring more people in. Because you're afraid that we're gonna, because we have a new tasting house, we're gonna bring more people in? And more traffic?
Well, you are.
You will, you will. Let's
It's
hope
gonna
you
be,
do.
it's not gonna be new traffic coming to Riverhead or Southold. They're just gonna stop at my place, hopefully.
No, they're
That's the
not just
goal.
going to stop. You're going to be having your regular business running at your vineyard with your beer garden and everything else that you have going on out there, your entertainment that you would like to have.
And all that
Plus,
is
you're going
legal.
to also have a wedding going on in the back, which is just going to bring in even more vehicles, more traffic.
The weddings would not go on at the same time as public space. It wouldn't be possible.
Especially if you close at 9.
Yeah.
How would you tell people not to come to your vineyard because you had a wedding?
What's that?
Suppose you had a wedding with 50 people.
We can start if we start the weddings we close between 5 and 6 o'clock. We can start the wedding at 6, 7 o'clock.
Oh, so you want to start a wedding
Right.
later? Okay.
And we know that there's no traffic on Sound Avenue after 6, 7 o'clock anyway, so we're not gonna be bringing increased traffic to the area. Maybe we're gonna bring some more business in the area. Maybe we're gonna make some more tax revenue for the town. But, again, people used to take Sound Avenue to get to Southold. People take Sound Avenue now to go to Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard. We're the first vineyard there, okay? And then they'll go to the other vineyards on the way. And I'm telling you, they are not gonna come if there's no music. I wish you would spend a day there, and George has been there, Ed's been there. I told you, the music's at a level that 2 people can sit across a table and speak. Sometimes it annoys the bands. They want it louder. And we yell and scream. If it ever starts getting up, we lower it back down, and we keep control of it. We're there all day listening to it. So,
I also see that you have pizzas, hot pretzels. How are you cooking those?
they're in a pizza trailer that's separately owned and has its own health department permits.
Okay.
And we rent them space on the property. I mean,
If I don't ask the questions, how am I going to know?
Everything
As I
that-
told you, I have not been there.
Right.
So when I see photographs or, whatever,
okay, so.
I like to know how that gets there.
Well, I'll explain the beer garden. The beer garden, there's an area in the front where people can come and stay for a couple hours and leave. Last year during the pandemic, that got a lot of people upset. We had to have seating times because we had to turn over, the people because we had to have the tables separated and we couldn't fit as many people. People were getting mad. They said, we want to spend the day. So we set up 15 tables in the backyard. It's on a nice big lawn, 15 tables, so those people can rent the tables for the whole day. And they can come there, they come there with their families, they come there with their pets. They play cornhole, giant Jenga and stuff. And the beer garden is right next to the food trailer. It's the separation between the 2 parts. We needed to put something there. We have a couple of taps and 3 tables in front of a TV set. So it's not like we're doing a brewery there. We're allowed to sell beer. We're allowed to sell cider. We just decided we'll sell it just there. And then we have the wine in the back, we have the wine in the front. So that was the setup of the beer garden. We just also thought it would attract people who don't really like wine that much. Or the guys that don't want to go with their wives out to the vineyard because they don't like wine. Now they have a reason to come there.
So those taps are inside that, look like a barn structure?
Barn, yeah.
And what else is inside that barn?
It's where we use all the storage for the whole vineyards in that barn. We basically opened up one of the doors and we rolled in a kegerator. That's basically what it is. It's a kegerator with 4 taps. That's the beer garden. I don't know what most people think
Do you have
about
a
vineyards.
sanitary system in there?
In the barn, no.
No? Your employees don't need that?
The employees go either in the, we have a restroom trailer on premises,
Oh, it's not a porta potty anymore, it's a restaurant
There's a
trailer.
porta potty in the parking lot for the, when you say, well, I have different workers, I have, the vineyard workers that actually pour the wine and serve the wine and stuff, that's one set of workers. We have a maintenance crew that does all the maintenance on the vehicles, and then we have an outside company, viticulturists, that take care of the vines. And those people are the people that come at all different times. And that's why we have to have a porta potty in the parking lot, because we don't let them come into the building to use the bathrooms as it's currently set up.
Okay, I'm good. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to
I'm good.
ask?
Next.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Hope to see you there soon. We're opening this weekend. Good luck.
Have a good evening. Get home safe.
Thanks.
Okay, we do not have any public hearings this evening. We'll take public comments on the resolutions. Are you coming up? Okay,
Taking the mask off?
it's fine. Just please state your name for the record.
Yes, good evening. My name is George Warnick from Bating Hollow, and I want to say good evening to everybody. One of the reasons why I'm here is to clear my name. Mr. Kelly, a couple of weeks ago, said that I was a bully in getting some of the signatures, and I want to assure the planning board that it was the simplest thing that I've probably ever done, is getting 33 signatures. It took me about 2 days, 3 hours each. And there was no bullying or anything like that of getting these signatures. I have a statement I like to read. Now, I wrote this before I was aware of the restrictions, covenants and restrictions that you've applied to the application. Although application of music at the Bating Hollow Farm Vineyard was the initial reason for me to ask fellow Bating Hollow neighbors to sign the petition, the broader motivation for me is the continued commercialization of Sound Avenue. In 1975, the New York State Legislature formally declared Sound Avenue to be a scenic and historic corridor. This is a quote, and that its historic, scenic, and cultural resources and its natural beauty shall be preserved and protected for the benefit and enjoyment of the people of the state, unquote. The act was adopted in honor of the celebration of the American Bicentennial, 1976, of course. However, as stated in the town's 2003 comprehensive plan, the designation of Sound Avenue as a scenic and historic corridor has not, quote again, not actually resulted in concrete protections for the roadway, unquote. The protection has depended entirely for almost a half century since the bicentennial on the decisions and actions of the Riverhead Town Board, the Planning Board, and the Zoning Board of Appeals. The signatures of those opposed to the use of amplified music and the expansion of the Bating Hollow Farm Vineyard operation represents the concern of property owners with respect for their quality of life. In a statement in opposition to the application of the Bating Hollow Farm Vineyard, former Planning Board Chairman Carey emphasized how all of the letters and signatures had impacted his decision. Mr. Carey went on to say that he believed that approval of the application would be, to quote, setting a very dangerous precedent for Sound Avenue and would be a first step in ruining the historical nature of Sound Avenue. The result of an approval of this application as submitted would result in an increase in traffic on Sound Avenue and likely the continuation of complaints about amplified music. You will also be creating a precedent that will make it more difficult for future planning boards or town board deliberations for other future commercial development along Sound Avenue. As you would expect, by any applicant, Mr. Kelly is asking, or has asked, that the planning board grant everything requested because approval of this application will, of course, enhance the attraction and profitability of the Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard as a major commercial attraction. The applicant has stated that if he were not allowed to have amplified outside music, it would put him at a disadvantage with competing attractions along Sound Avenue. However, it is evident that the covenants and restrictions placed on the cider house operation requiring no outside speakers or outside music be allowed doesn't seem to have negatively impacted the attendance at that attraction. Perhaps the planning board should consider adopting a policy of not permitting any electronically amplified music outside music for the entirety of Sound Avenue. As the 2003 comprehensive plan emphasized, preservation of Sound Avenue is quote-unquote critical. Please take more time to review this application, as you've done, and the preliminary site plan in order to incorporate measures which would show an appreciation for the unique historic and scenic qualities of Sound Avenue, reflect acknowledgement of the appeal of nearby property owners, and which is also fair to the applicant. My compliments to the planning board. That's what you've done. Thank you.
George, just for the record, we're not policy makers. If you want policy change, you have to go to the town board. And I worked with you for many years. You're nothing but a gentleman. So I'll stick up for you. You're not a bully.
Appreciate that, Ed. I'll tell you something, Ed. I was driving in here, and I was saying to myself, you know, Ed Deniseski, I think we were probably a completely opposite spectrum of the philosophy for development. That's granted. But Ed, I can't think of anybody else who I would rather have sat next to for 4 years than you, quite frankly.
Thank you, George.
Mr. Bartnick, I just want to say that I find it almost surreal to be sitting up here when you were my 9th grade earth science teacher.
Let's not go there.
I think in a nice way, she's saying you're old.
Thank you.
I'll admit it.
What a gentleman. Phil Barbado, Jamesport. I think a new hearing is in order. I think there's enough of a difference between what's being proposed now and what was the subject of the original hearing that we should start over again. I think there are some significant changes here that need to be addressed. Having said that, I want to thank you and the planning department for putting these conditions and restrictions in the resolution that's in front of you today. I think they tried to capture as best they could the concern of the citizenry and the desire to do what's best for the surrounding landowners and homeowners. So I thank you for that. I think in particular the restriction on, or the control of erosion and sediment, with a corrosion and sediment control plan, the enrollment, making sure that the site is enrolled in the Suffolk County Ag District, because that's where you're going to be able to do the accessory stuff. And the restriction of closing at 9 o'clock, I think that's really a good idea. The eighth restriction or comment here is that the fees and so forth do not exceed 30% of the total gross sales from the retail sale on site of the beverage produced at the farm. I think that's going to be difficult to prove. We keep hearing about weddings and parties and meetings and renting out tables and food trucks and so on. This is a great restriction that we really need to have in this, any approval that's granted for this applicant. There's also a requirement in the state agricultural code concerning the total floor area that can be used for things other than are grown on the farm itself. And that might be something to consider adding to this revenue limitation as well. something like 40% outside products, floor space area. Concerning traffic, I hope that you've got something in mind for that. The intersection of Edwards and Sound Avenue was identified during the Transportation Comp Plan meeting that I attended as a critical intersection, and it's going to get worse if we have more traffic. I think if it's up to applicants like the one you have in front of you, more traffic is good for business. What are you complaining about? But more traffic leads to more accidents and more serious medical conditions and death. So we need to consider, I think, traffic in this application as well. I think that's all I had to say. I just would hope that you would start over again with another hearing. And I thank you very much for taking these serious considerations into account and putting them in the proposal that's in front of you. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm Brad Blair. I'm from Baiting Hollow, and I've been at this vineyard for a bunch of years, and it's certainly gotten a lot better than what it used to be. If you take music away, I'm going to drive past it and go to the next place that's got music. You needed me to... Sure. Better? Not quite sure why this vineyard is being singled out, but, you know, they don't have music. I don't see them actually surviving. Yeah, I go there all the time. I go to a lot of places on Sound Avenue, and I just don't see the attraction of sitting outside in silence when I can go to a bunch of other places. I saw they put a really nice sound system in that allows them to have rather low volumes and spread out really nicely, so there's not a lot of loud music. Used to be, a long time ago. Years ago, it kind of had the Bordy Barn feel, but that's really not the way it is now. They put a lot of money into it, and it would just be sad for me to, you know, not feel like I need to go there anymore because of some sound thing. And, you know, I hear Joe talking about that this isn't really about the outdoor sound, and then I hear other people kind of saying different things. And so I'm trying to understand, like, is this about the outside sound or the inside sound? You know, talking about traffic, I mean, look at the pickers. Look at the amount of traffic we've gotten based on the people who come and do picking. That traffic is much worse than what happens in front of their vineyard. I just don't know why they're being singled out. And so, you know, I'd like to keep enjoying my time there. And, you know, I see them making capital improvements. So, you know, I'm at a loss here as to why this is such a big deal. And again, I go to other places on Sound Avenue that have lots of music. So to me, it's either all or nothing. Everybody gets to play it or nobody gets to play it. But to pick, you know, individual vineyards based on I don't know what just seems not to be fair. And the gentleman is talking about Sound Avenue back in the 70s. There's going to be some scenic route. I don't think in the 70s they knew what the population explosion would be out here. There's been a 40% increase in the student population here, where the rest of the island is 2%. My taxes have gone up a lot in the last 2 years because of the school taxes going up 25% in 2 years. So if we scare off guys like this who are making us money, you know, our taxes continue to go up. So, you know, I think that the scenic route of Sound Avenue is over. I mean, it's, you know, there's too many places there now. And, you know, I've listened to this whole thing tonight, and to me it sounds like there's still some question as to what the issue is here. Is it the music outside? I mean, they have mostly acoustic acts, you know? There are other people right next to them that have much louder bands. So, I don't know what, but just don't take the place away from me, because it's a great place, it's close to my house, and don't make me drive a little bit farther to go get the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more comments on the resolutions?
My name is Gary Danowski. I've been living across the street from the vineyard for all of my 57 years, on and off. I've been there most of the time. I'm there every weekend, Friday, Saturday. I work at Brookhaven Lab, so, I mean, I'm there. I hear what goes on, I see what goes on. I usually don't say anything, and, I mean, or whatever. And last time you had this meeting, I spoke to the seedier side, all the bad things I've seen, and I'm not going to repeat that, but, you know, you guys can look that up. It's in the Riverhead Local. Since that meeting, it has gotten better. He has made changes. I don't hear the dumpster rattling once a week at 3 or 4 in the morning. The sound level has gone down. It has gotten better. But what I'm afraid, you know, and this is the winter time now, so I'm not outside as much. I mean, and I don't hear it as much, but what I'm afraid of is when that summertime comes along and those traffic starts coming out, the buses that try to get around and get through the telephone pole, and people are trying to cut around them, and it's a mess. It's just a mess for me. The noise, said most of the times I don't need a radio. Shut it off. I just found out this morning that the plan was posted to the website, so I haven't even looked at it, so I don't really know the details, so I don't want to speak about any of that. I would like the town to push it ahead and let's review this some more, like the other gentleman said. Most of these people that are speaking for the winery are not residents. They're drifted. They come in, they visit, you know, if they go somewhere else, they go home. For me, it's like having a neighbor that throws a block party from Friday, most of the time, sometimes Friday, but every Saturday and Sunday. And if you had a neighbor like that, I think you'd be pretty ticked off at it if he's throwing like a graduation party every Saturday and Sunday with blasted music. But like I said, he's gotten better. But I'm worried, but, you know, because I don't know what all these changes are gonna, and, you know, you give an inch, you take a mile. But, you know, some of these, let's see, what am I gonna say? I mean, good fences make for good neighbors. And if I could put a fence up with the town's approval that would not transmit the sound or see him, I would do it. You know, because it's my residence. Like I said, I've been there most of 57 years. Now I'm in a position where I may be there or I may not be, you know, any longer. I'm at a critical point in my life. My mother's 93 years old. She's still in the house. My brother just passed away. We buried him this morning at the Bating Hollow Cemetery. But I felt it was important enough to come here to make, you know, at least a statement of, you know, what my objections are. And, you know, I don't know the man, but he comes off to me as very arrogant. He's never talked to me. The old owner, his predecessor, did talk to us, would come over, talk to my mother, you know, and, you know, he was a friendly guy. He's very arrogant, I'm sorry. But you come across that way, I don't, I would like a neighbor, like anybody would like a neighbor that works with you. You know, like, let's see what we can do, give and take, you know, try to work it out. And I don't feel we're getting that. Like I said, I am a lifetime resident there and probably will stay there. It was my father and my uncle's potato farm. And I was working since 10 years old on that farm. And actually where his wine is, we released that property or rented it. I don't know what my father did. We have potatoes growing there. So that's all I want to say. I mean, thank you. I don't know what to say else. I mean, I really should be back with my family, so.
Thank you for your time this evening, and we're very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Grams, Riverhead resident, Reeves Park.
I want to thank you for amending the resolution, first off. That was a very bold move, and believe me, there are hundreds that appreciate it, and that's the good neighbors on Sound Avenue. And I want to thank you, Madam Chairman, excuse me, for asking your questions, because you couldn't get to the vineyard, and you saw the website, and I thought you asked very articulate questions for just answers. I thank you for that. I just wanted to read one very prominent farmer here, who's just down the road on Sound Avenue. I don't want to use his name because he could not be here tonight, but he would allow me to read his remarks that were made on the 13th of December at an agricultural farmland preservation topic meeting. It was a summary of comments. And he says, in favor of ag entertainment, but weddings and parties should not be considered ag entertainment. Outdoor weddings are causing an adverse noise effect. Riverhead has no enforcement on nights and weekends from May 1st to September 31st. Proper zoning guidelines need to be drawn if these uses are considered to be ag entertainment. We all want to be good neighbors. Noise ordinance needs to be updated. Outdoor tent events and permits need to be discussed further as real construction. And he also talks about implying that there's amplified music with even a tent construction or pavilion. I know you know your laws and codes, and it's no need to go over the agricultural lands 201-1, which is the chapter known as Agricultural Lands Preservation Law for the town of Riverhead. And it mentions in B of the subsection 4, right to farm. You okay? Farmland practices include such things as plowing and irrigation and pesticides and raising horses. So, you know, it's typical to hear barn animals and things like that. But it actually goes into further saying, these activities can and do generate dust and smoke and noise and vibration and may occur on holidays and Sundays and weekends, because that's when farmers farm, and both day and night. Such activities are presumed reasonable if you live near a farm, and you should not imply that they are a nuisance. Music was not one of them. My last comment, George stole from me because I was going to read Mr. Carey's notes, your predecessor, but I'm sure you know his decision on this as well. I thank you for your time. I thank you for trying to preserve Sound Avenue. It's the reason why I bought my house 25 years ago. I moved out here to get away from it all, not to be in it again. Please preserve it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Kelly. I'm the general manager and Sean's brother. And the first thing I want to really take offense to is the music being too loud. That's one of my jobs when I'm there all weekend, to make sure that it isn't loud. And I spend a lot of time with all the acts to make sure that that music is going through the sound system at our control volume, to the point where I talk to the customers. I've spoken with some of you up there about, can you hear when the music's going on? Can you have a conversation when the music's going on? And nobody that's there is able to say that the music's too loud. They're having a conversation, talking right next to the speakers that we're controlling. And we have the volume that we control. That's one of my jobs when I'm there. And I did, oh, he left. I know he needed to be with his family. I did, at many different times, go across the street to check the sound level, not just from our property level, but I went across the street to the neighbors, because I know how sound travels, sometimes up, down, it changes direction. I wanted to hear, and he said he heard it in his garage. I knocked on his front door, he wasn't there. I thought maybe he'd be in the garage listening to music, walked around the side, and as I walked around the side of his house, I said, I do hear music. But it wasn't my music. So I started walking down towards east, and I realized it was Cooperage. They had some rock event going on, and that music was blaring down the street. It wasn't my music, it's acoustic music that we have playing there. So I started to research that, and that happens quite often where music is coming down that street, which would funnel right into his garage area. But I did have some people reach out when we were shot down for the tasting house the first time. One of the neighbors lives at 2117 Sound Avenue, and he sent me an email that I can leave for you if you'd like. And he said, to whom it may concern, I, Jeffrey Charles, residing at 2117 Sound Avenue, Bating Hollow, New York, 11933, directly across the street from the vineyard, write this letter in support of the Bating Hollow Farm Vineyard and its new owners who seek the town's approval for improvement on the property and the ability to continue to have live music outdoors. I have lived here since 2015 and have watched the transition of the property and its activities with new ownership and consider them to be good neighbors. Good neighbors, that's what we've been hearing. Bad neighbors, not trying it, good neighbors. And have spent time with them to discuss their plans for the property. They have been considerate when it comes to the volume and the control of the music, including eliminating some outdoor speakers, and I've had no issues with them. Now, actually, I know exactly where Jeffrey is and the speakers he's talking about. When we first put the sound system in, we had a side area where there were speakers, and that would have been the only sound that could have actually left the property, and we removed them. We don't even play music from those speakers anymore because they're not necessary for our sound to be heard, since everything is behind the tasting house and further, so there was no need to have speakers towards the front, so we did remove that for him. I support live local music here, and on the North Fork of the Bating Hollow Farm Vineyard has been a big part of that for many years. I believe they will continue to be considerate of their neighbors going forward, and their new tasting room and venue will be an asset to the East End for years to come. I truly wish I could be there to speak directly tonight to the town on their behalf, but I am traveling right now. Again, they have my full support, and I wish them much success. Now, I reached out to Jeffrey after he sent this to me to thank him, and he told me that if anything comes up in the future, he will definitely come in and speak. He doesn't understand how a neighbor could say they're hearing music when he's in the same exact spot and he's not. I don't say anybody's lying, but he's just telling me that he was shocked to hear that there was music that was coming out of our property. And I have another email that was sent to me today, if I could read that. Stephen, my name is Mitch Johnson, and I'm a resident of the Bating Hollow Estate and reside at 217 Landing Lane in Bating Hollow. Our backyard shares a farm in common with the Bating Hollow Farm Vineyard, and it's less than a mile driving from our house. We have been going to the winery for the last few years, and I've had a pleasure visiting Bating Hollow Farm Vineyard recently since the updates, and think it's great. I don't hear any noise from my yard. It really brings a new level of entertainment to our neighborhood. There's activities for the kids and adults, and everyone looks forward to going. I think having live music on the property is a must. It's pretty standard with all other vineyards on the North Fork. Who doesn't like live music on a beautiful summer day drinking delicious wines? I don't see how it's supposed to disrupt the neighborhood. I think it only makes it better. It's not like a late night bar. It's a daytime, family-friendly activity. Looking forward to some nice live music coming this summer, hopefully. And that's Mitch Johnson. And Mitch also, I have a picture here of the his property to our vineyard. He has nothing between us and him but farmland, and hears none of our music. Now, I know from past experience that, yes, there was loud music that played from Bating Hollow Farm Vineyard before my brother took over. bands would line up speakers and sound systems and blast it as loud as they could with no control. There weren't tables. It was a standing room only place. We have the tables, and the tables are in place for people. The backyard is set up for people to enjoy the loud music. The live music, sorry, the live music. Set you up perfect. So I am there every weekend, and it's my job to make sure that everything is running the right way. And one of those things is the sound system with all the bands. I've eliminated some bands that were playing there for years because it doesn't fit what we need for music. It's not a 5-piece band. We have the largest group we have is 3. We have keyboards, acoustic guitars, that's it. There's nothing that could be blaring out. I don't know where they get that there was bass blaring out because I haven't seen a bass player. So I do everything I can, and that's my promise to everybody. I will always, if there is a problem, you come see me. You come directly to me. I have no problem with that. That's my job. I'd rather answer to them than my brother sometimes. So I am here to make sure that this place does what it's supposed to and adheres to all of our guidelines.
All right, thank you
Okay?
very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'll keep this short. My name is Mike Munzer. I'm not a resident. I'm a little farther west, but I'm an acquaintance of the Kellys. And I was introduced to him by my dentist, of all things. He said, Mike, you and Renee have to go out and check out their new place, the Bating Hollow. I said, I'm not going there. That's crazy. Because under the old ownership, you know, you go in there, your ears would be bleeding. So you know, now we go, you know, frequently we say hi, we see the guys, and the one thing I would say is that really just strikes me is that when you're there, both Stephen and Sean are up and about, antennas up, everything's blazing, they're going out visiting, they visit each table several times throughout the course, because I'm usually there when we go, I'm there for a few hours. And going to ask every table, everything okay, make sure it's not too loud, so on and so forth. So just as Stephen was saying, he actually does it. And I guess the other thing is, you know, my father used to tell me, you know, be careful not to confuse style with substance, right? Sean is an intense guy. He manages his business with that same level of intensity. So, you know, you could just tell he's serious about keeping things within boundaries, within limits, managing it to be a quiet, respectable, and respectful place. He's even, you know, mentioned to people, we want to make sure we're good neighbors. You know, are we too loud? You know, so it's a lot different than it was before he took over. So just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Tucker Shurton for Greater Calverton Civic. It's been a long night on this issue tonight. I appreciate all of your patience and everyone here that's attending tonight. I'm going to be as brief as possible. Some of the points I wanted to make were already covered, so I'm happy for that. I do want to thank you as our planning board for watching out for our interests and writing the type of resolution that you did tonight. I did see a lot of contention from the applicant, which was a slight gradient change from his presentation in August. I know that our chair was not here for that. I don't know if you look back on those videos you have. You'll also remember then there was a hearing in August, and the second time in October, also a hearing. And in August, when the question was posed, are you going to be holding weddings at this venue? And I'm not going to be verbatim, but the general answer was a very subdued answer. Well, you know, not right now, not. since that time, and the last time there was someone here, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, when you had the last meeting, mentioned that there's like 6 wedding sites on the internet that are fully being accessed to bring weddings to the property. So it's that, why wasn't that led with in August? I'm certain that that couldn't have been just a new idea. I do want to read slightly prepared statements, very short. Before I do, I just want to draw your attention to the letter that was already sent out from 4 civic presidents, which represent the residents in the area all along Sound Avenue from Wading River through to Jamesport. It was sent to Planning Board, Planning Department, and also the Town Board. I've obviously read it. I just want to reiterate one part of it at the end. So on October 7th, 2021, the full Planning Board clearly and unequivocally denied Mr. Kelly's preliminary site plan when the vote went 3 against and 2 for Resolution 101. Contrary to Mr. Bergman's assertion that the vote was a failure to take action on the resolution, it was a clear denial of the resolution. Now, with a new member of the Planning Board replacing one of the no votes on the resolution, Mr. Kelly is resubmitting his preliminary site plan and boldly proposing an even larger facility. The barn is more than 1,000 square feet larger, and there is an additional covered porch and cellar constituting 864 additional square feet. Ms. Waske, as the new member and chair of the Planning Board, we ask that you take the time and carefully evaluate this proposed project, which it's sounding like you are tonight. At the last meeting, you said you wanted to go visit the vineyard. Well, it's closed now, preparing to open, I believe, and unless you visit during the open season, you can have no realistic idea of how this project will impact the historic Sound Avenue corridor and just how the increased traffic will adversely affect not only visitors to the East End, but especially those residents of this town who live in that area. You were not on the board when the public hearing was held on the project, but for a project of this magnitude and such an important gateway to our town, it is so very important that you hear from the people of Riverhead before you make a decision. Thus, while not required by code to hold another hearing, it is clearly the right thing, especially since Mr. Kelly has now submitted plans for an even larger barn and an additional covered porch and cellar. To vote on the significantly altered proposal on a snowy night, it's not snowing, it was actually raining today, but it is a night in winter. Many people who do live in that area, hundreds of people who live north of Sound Avenue in that immediate area, west and east, are not in their homes at the moment. They will be. If you were to do this without holding another public hearing, it would be a complete dereliction of your duty to the townspeople of Riverhead. I ask you, the Planning Board, to do the right thing. Table this resolution, post the proposed preliminary site plan on the town website. This was written before this morning's website reflected the plans, and schedule a public hearing on this proposal. So I'll close with, I hope that was brief enough. The closing of our letter from the 4 civic presidents read, therefore, the civic associations of Riverhead, our members and neighbors, request the town board formally begin the process of designating Sound Avenue as a historic corridor. Recognizing, Mr. Danciaski, you're not a policy body, but we do want you to know that we are in the comprehensive plan time where I think the supervisor said in this last month, we're only a third of the way done with it. This would be a precedent-setting, dangerous precedent-setting site plan to approve. So I thank you for your anticipated best efforts to safeguard our heritage and champion our continued economic success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barbara Blass, and I live in Jamesport. I also want to thank you for doing your best effort here in arriving at consensus. It's never an easy thing to do. There are clearly a lot of different vantage points at which to assess this, but I know you'll, in the end, do the right thing, and I would endorse the concept of possibly holding another hearing, perhaps tabling this resolution. But I understand that it's been here before you for some time. Yes. Okay, thank you, I'm sorry. Okay, so the revised Ag and Markets Guidance document that's in the file reference contains several provisions which are really relevant here, and it states that the primary purpose of the activities and events of agricultural operation must be to sell the farm's products, and the marketing tools must be consistent with that premise. Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyards describes its operation on the website as, quote, "One of the most talked about destinations on Long Island's East End, Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyards is open all year, featuring great food and Long Island's top entertainers on weekends, with up to 5 bars in season. During the weekdays, we always have our great sound system providing a cool vibe in what is always a warm and friendly place to shop, hang out, enjoy wine, and eat." I didn't even hear the word farm in there. We're supposed to be promoting farm operations. It did mention the word wine once. However, Baiting Hollow Farm site is a bona fide agricultural operation, and although it's located in a residential district. And these operations have protections under right to farm legislation, which was mentioned earlier. And again, that legislation does not embrace noise from music or party revelers. Compliance with a noise ordinance doesn't always make the noise less of a nuisance. A dripping faucet doesn't have to exceed 65 decibels to disrupt one's quality of life. And we should always keep that in mind, that just because you're compliant with the code so that you don't get a violation, it doesn't mean that there's not nuisance from music. This board unanimously approved the Grapes and Greens site plan, which several conditions, among them, no outdoor music, no weddings, food service, restaurant, or catering would be permitted. These limitations were not considered unreasonably restrictive. Grapes and Greens site is located in an agricultural zone, but those conditions were still nonetheless approved unanimously by the planning board. Why? Because you determined that they help ensure the orderly development of the historic corridor, preserve and enhance the scenic resources in our agricultural heritage, and serve to mitigate some of the concerns of the community. You directed that those restrictions were to be contained in a covenant approved by the town attorney, filed in the county clerk's office, and run with the land. And I respectfully request, if we get to that point, that that same covenant procedure be followed. In your consideration of the resolution, please remember that the Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard is located along that same corridor that I just mentioned. Your Grapes and Greens decision was precedent-setting, and the decision before you tonight should be considered consistent by not permitting weddings, large-scale catered events, outdoor music, etc. Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard can be embraced and celebrated as a contributing resource in the corridor, independent of its use as wedding venue, catering hall, and other such similar events. And I thank you very much for your time and attention and consideration of our comments.
Thank you. Okay, it does not look like we have, one more, sorry.
I'm gonna take off the mask. That feels good, I've had it on for hours. Catherine Kent, Baiting Hollow. And I just want to begin by thanking you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I also want to welcome the chairman to her new position and wish you well. I just had a few comments to make, concerns that I have in regard to this facility. But before that, I wanted to unpack a few of the things that were said tonight by the applicant. So, the applicant talked about presupposing. I don't consider it presupposing. I consider it doing long-range planning, due diligence, and protecting our quality of life. And for that, I thank you for your work, and I do want to thank Mr. Bergman for the work that he did with the restrictions that were put in. I certainly appreciate them. In the planning board, I do want to say to the applicant, the planning board represents us, the people of Riverhead. You know, there's discussion of a petition that was signed, 1,300 people. I find it hard to believe that 1,300 people who live in Baiting Hollow would sign a petition in favor of this. I don't know if that's what that was about. I wasn't familiar with that. I do have to say, I think you said something about flipping. It's actually Footloose that you were referring to, I think. I also found the demeanor and the presentation from the applicant concerning. You know, I don't appreciate someone speaking to our planning board in a disrespectful manner, and it does concern me if there are issues down the road, whether you're going to have the same kind of pushback from an applicant that already presented themselves in such a way. And as far as, you know, high taxes, we do pay high taxes. We pay high taxes because we live in a beautiful area. And that's what we want to retain. A few of my concerns, certainly, we can agree that we live in a beautiful town. And as stewards of the land, it is our responsibility to find that delicate balance between progress and retaining our rural heritage. And Baiting Hollow is a small hamlet, and it's made up mostly of traditional agriculture and residential. We do have the cider house, we have Giorgio's Catering, we have Long Island Vodka, the Cooperage, and yes, the Baiting Hollow Vineyard. This facility is actually in what, you know, is considered a green zone area, the area between Sound Avenue and the Long Island Sound. And there is, as other people stated, there is already a lot of traffic at those two intersections, because I drive by there numerous times a day, and if you ever go down Sound Avenue, when those three facilities are busy, there are cars parked all the way up Toomey Avenue. Toomey and Sound is a busy intersection, and so is Edwards. The noise that was brought up, well, I live over about a mile from there. I've lived there my whole life. And I can hear the music. I can hear people talking on the loudspeaker. It sounds as if it's in my yard. I'm talking about the areas. I'm talking about right in that area. And you guys know too, from what's going on in Jamesport right now, that when you have farm fields and open spaces, the sound does travel. So the sound is an issue. And I'm not against outdoor dining, but this is different. Outdoor dining is different from outdoor events and catering. This will impact many residential areas. We've got the Founder's Path, Landing Lane, Silver Beaches, the Knolls, Fox Hill, people along Sound Avenue, the Manors, Donna Drive. All of those residential areas will be impacted by this and more. You know, and I do want to mention that in Baiting Hollow, I think it's important that we retain our traditional farms. You know, this move starts moving us in a different direction, and I have to agree with, you know, what Mr. Carey said. It is a concern I think this sets a bad precedent. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your work that you've done. I know it's been a long night, and I urge you to keep these restrictions in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I believe that's it for the public comments. So we will move on to the resolutions.
I'll move resolution number 6, which is the declaring positive declaration for major subdivision application of the industrial subdivision in Calverton.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move resolution 7, Riverhead Charter School, granting administrative site plan for the approval. So moved.
Second motion?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move resolution number 8 for the Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard, so moved.
Second.
Number 3.
On this, I am going to have a member vote, please. Nenaro?
I think we should table it. I think we should
It's been
table it.
moved, there's a motion, we have to vote on the motion that
I'll
was moved.
abstain.
What's that?
I'll abstain.
Nysesky?
Couple of little things to say. Greg did a great job, I had a lot of conversations with him about it. My opinion differs a little bit, but I respect your ability as a planner and doing what you think was right. I appreciate the passion from all the speakers and everybody involved. It's a big issue. I wish there was a happy middle ground, but there isn't. I believe protecting the quality of life for the residents, as Joanne said, is very important. I think moving the barn back will do that. I don't think it's going to impact the quality of the neighborhood. But what's really, really important to me is protecting individuals' property rights. I think once we lose individuals' property rights, we're going down a slippery slope. The Post and Beam building that's being moved back will fit in with the nature of Sound Avenue. Matter of fact, I believe it will improve Sound Avenue. With that said, I'm going to vote no, because I think it's a little bit too restrictive.
O'Day?
No.
Bear?
No comment.
Yes.
How'd you vote, Joe? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Well, I don't feel that anyone is being singled out here. I believe that these are the same standards that have been made with recent rulings, and I respectfully would like to continue to have a scenic route and preserve what's left of the land, and I think that the rights of the residents in the neighborhood, in the surrounding areas, that they deserve to not have interference, be a noise, traffic further than what they already have. So I vote no.
On this resolution?
Yeah. Oh, no, I vote yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I want to make sure everybody understands the resolution.
No,
I understand.
I'm sorry. It's a yes for me.
So the motion, the resolution fails.
The resolution passes. Mr. O'Day, you voted no on the resolution?
Yes.
I'll move resolution number 9 for the proposed drive-in restaurant and retail site for a public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do you have any public comments on other matters?
I'll move the minutes.
I do.
Just don't bully us, George.
George Bartnick from Baiting Hollow again. I don't know if this is something that I should mention, and Dick, this might change your opinion, but would the board consider allowing to have live music, just consideration, not amplified, outside of the pavilion? I'm just making a suggestion that that would be something that would be, maybe Mr. Nenaro would reconsider his position, just to,
That's why I wanted to table it, George. But, you know.
well, I'm just saying, if you want to make a decision tonight, I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn, maybe I'm not speaking for the people that signed the petition. When Ed and I were on the town board, we always try to find a compromise to make things work. And that's all I'm suggesting.
Thank you, George.
Hi, Tucker Turshen, Calverton Civic, I'm confused by the vote. It was explained to me 2-2-1, that means that the resolution did not pass. Did I get that right?
You did.
Okay. Where does that leave this?
That's a
That's a
great
good
question.
I
Leaves
rec-
is still
I'm-
pending to answer your question. So the application is still pending and there's no vote on it yet.
Okay, so are we where we were when we had a no, 3-2 no vote in October, where
Yes.
the applicant still has three options: walk away, change, or submit again for final and take their chances?
That's where we are.
But again,
I agree with that synopsis, but
I respectfully request that there be a public hearing. Thank you very much.
Make a motion to move the minutes of the January
The motion
20th
was already made.
meeting. Oh, let's second that, sorry.
Nothing to do with resolutions, applications, just general
We have a
planning update on some activities.
Did we do number
Can I do that? Cool. I can breathe.
We have a resolution.
there's a resolution pending on the minutes. Go
Oh,
ahead.
on the minutes,
You want
okay.
to vote on the minutes?
I don't know if he started it or not.
Who's on first?
I made the motion, that was seconded.
Okay, you did, okay.
So
I'll wait.
we vote on the minutes now, and then I
Yeah,
think
vote on
Jeff
the
Jeff-
That's right, then you can.
Voting on the
All in
minutes.
favor?
okay.
on the minutes?
All in favor of the?
Yes.
minutes?
Yep.
Aye.
Just a couple of updates on activities going on in the town. One, the Edwards Avenue Route 25 intersection. We all know how bad that intersection is. Department of Transportation has targeted that and budgeted for the reconstruction of that intersection. They have scheduled a virtual public hearing on that on Wednesday, February 9th. I believe it's at 6 o'clock. There's a public service announcement on our website that has the Zoom link information and has all the construction documents, so you can see how the design and layout of the proposed improvements are going to look like. So for all the people that are watching and are here this evening, just so you're aware of that, that's a major improvement in the town that's long needed. The second thing, just want to give the viewing audience an update on the comprehensive plan. As I mentioned during our last rounds of public meetings last year, we were going to disappear for the month of January so that we could accumulate. We got the public community survey, the interactive map comments, 5 topic meetings, and 4 community meetings. We have to take all those comments, assimilate them, summarize them, organize them, so that we can provide a response back to the community. And that's what we're in the process of doing now. We plan on coming back out to the community hopefully later this month and going through the March period. So we're on target with meeting those target dates, but I just want to give everybody an update that nothing is slowing down. We're just doing our work behind the scenes right now. That's it.
Were you bucking for a raise or something?
What's that?
Were you bucking for a raise?
No. Oh, well,
Good.
Okay, our next meeting date is Thursday, February 17th, 2022 at 3 p.m.
Motion to close.
Second
Wait.
motion.
I'm very sorry, there's a resident who's asking me that they are confused on the vote, that it was recorded incorrectly. I don't understand that. Is there any clarification you could give to me? Like, is it a 3-1 vote?
No, it was 2-2-1.
2 no's, 1 abstention. So it was a non.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Jefferson wants to speak with us real quick.
Where we started at 6, we've been out of here.